So we're back to the sofas, where I'm joined by my colleague and a guest, Michalina Konkel. Michalina, when we look at the subject of our talk, it's quite intriguing. We talk reinventing DEI action plans through data-driven insight and collaboration. So there's a hidden statement in this title suggesting that there needs to be some work done on changing DEI action plans. So I would like our conversation to go that direction, if it's okay with you.
Sure. I think that the action plans is just a part of implementation of DEI. So let's have this context that a lot of things have to happen before.
Right. Michalina, I know you. I've known you for a long time. Obviously, we are in the same team, and but for some of the audience, it's I think important to set a context of your role. You work as a DEI strategist. You support clients across different industries, so you really have a broad view onto what's happening in the organizations. So please tell me and tell us what's the state of DEI action plans across the organizations. What are you seeing? What is maybe becoming your worry or should become the worry of the client?
Thank you, Basia, for this question. And I think that I can divide this type of action plans, which I see in the market, into three types. One are those which are imposed by headquarters. So we have already heard several of the examples. Paulina also mentioned about, for example, celebrating Halloween, which will be not adequate for some of the cultures. Some holidays like Veteran Day were also one of the examples which was imposed by headquarters, which is not applicable actually in some of Eastern European cultures. And opposite, I was working with a Polish company, which headquarters was here in Warsaw, and they were cooperating with Philippines, and they were talking about spring parties. Which was
what is a spring party?
What is a spring party?
Yeah,
exactly.
What is it?
They completely didn't understand when is the spring. What do we mean by that? So first imposed by headquarters. Second type of action plans, which I would name, would be brainstormed by a group of volunteers. And usually this can happen inside of DEI teams, or it can happen just by a group of volunteers in the company. And it is a brainstorming session of what else can we do? Maybe this, maybe that. Let's do a Women's Day this way. Maybe we can have some flamenco dancing. Maybe
Why not?
Why not? Yeah. Yeah. Let's celebrate Pride. Let's do this or that. But it's still just like a bunch of lovely ideas, which not necessarily have to be connected with the business strategy or even employees' real needs. So this is a second type. And the third type...
So we had inadequate in a way, and we had disconnected, right? Kind of suggesting lack of filters. And I wonder what's number three.
Number three, I would say this is the one which sounds really reasonable, because these are the ones which is data-driven. So there are some there are some companies which are collecting data. They collect quantitative data or qualitative data to get really to the heart of the problems of their employees, to see what should be changed. And guess what? They don't work.
Wait, what? They don't work? Data doesn't work? How is that even possible?
How does it happen that data doesn't work? Because I would say actually that I have noticed, I and our team in Diversity Hub actually, and I will not hesitate to use these words, like a tremendous lack of accountability of possessed data. Companies collect data, and I really saw that they don't do anything with this data. The trust of employees who share the data is broken. So I will give you some examples because of course I was preparing to this session. So we had a really big client who had an idea to implement some solutions to support women in their company. However, they really wanted to collect data, quantitative data, to see what is the percentage of the problem, like how it really looks like. And in the statistics, it didn't go out. I mean, it means that women felt exactly the same as men in this company when it comes to feeling of the respect, of being equally treated, and so on. And what? They said, okay, no matter, let's do that anyway. So as you can assume, it just caused a lot of tensions in the company because for men and even for women, these actions were not easy to understand. Why is it happening? Another example is a company which collected data. They put a lot of effort and resources to do so. And when we came up with data, which was not what they expected, they said that their employees didn't understand the questions.
Okay.
So they just didn't treat the data as true. Yeah. So it's really, really tremendous lack of accountability when it comes to this area. Yeah.
You know, when we say data, it almost brings some sense of discomfort, and I think that's natural. But that's not the stage where we should just stop and end the investigation. And I will remember this word from the earlier conversation with Łukasz. So data potentially may bring some discomfort, but you should not stop there, right? It should give you direction onto further actions. And it also models the conversation around data, as you mentioned. Some companies decide not to have this conversation. Some companies maybe go into inadequate conversations, and at the end of the day, you're left with mixed feelings in employees' minds, which creates a huge risk.
I really like what you said about this creating space for conversation, and actually that's how I understand also the collecting of data. This is just the beginning of the conversation, especially what lies behind quantitative data. We also had one case with a client from manufacturing industry, and it was really interesting because when it comes to statistics, it looked as if women were having access to the hardest jobs in the company. So it means that the assumption of HR was that they are equally treated. So it means that they can do exactly what men did. But unfortunately, it happened that the men were treated in this company as, I would say, as privileged, as kings. And the women were doing the hardest job. So it was completely opposite thing which was behind it, but only qualitative research allowed us to see it.
To better understand really what you got in the data. So Michalina, slowly moving to closure of our conversation, what in your perspective, what in your experience needs reinventing? So when we look specifically at action plans, what do we need to reinvent?
Yesterday I was attending a conference on AI, and they said that AI is only as good as your data is. And I would say that for the DEI, data is not enough. So what is really needed? First, I would say, be ready for inconvenient truth. I mean, you need to prepare your stakeholders, your company, for hearing the most inconvenient truth, which this data will reveal. And this is the first necessary step. And the second, which I would say, is really be mindful who is possessing this data. is this person, first of all, a person or group of people function, yeah, exactly, reliable on one hand, but on the other hand, to what extent this person has credibility in the organization to do something about this data. Because this is also our observation, that very often this function responsible for collecting data and doing something about that is not it's not ready or credible, doesn't have credibility enough to change something in the organization. And they just stay with this data and nothing changes.
So what you're saying is that effective DEI action plan is in fact linked with a set of competencies and you say ability, credibility, but it's really how you understand and how resourceful you are using the data and implementing action plan.
So just to sum up one word, accountability for the data.
Right, I think it's a great final thought and a message to everyone, and something that we should keep close to our hearts. Be accountable for the data, but also don't be afraid to look into the data, right?
Yeah. And get ready for inconvenient truth.
Okay. Powerful message at the end of our conversation. Thank you so much, Michalina.